Cat Podcast.
We're back.
We're back. Don't do the creepy voice. I'm Kelly McFarland.
I'm Carolyn Plummer.
And we are the hosts of the Fraidy Cat Podcast. This podcast is dedicated to everything that makes you feel afraid in any way, shape, or form. For me, it's everything. And of the paranormal sort. I'm kind of looking at Carolyn because she's not afraid of much.
Not afraid of much. It fascinates me more than it scares me.
Yeah. It's like a car crash. Like, you want to know what happened, but you don't want to be late.
Late?
You know, if you're driving.
Oh, yeah. You want to see what happened if you're in traffic.
Yes, yes. We also have a guest with us this week. We have our very good friend, the very funny, the very talented comedian, Kathe Farris is here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yes.
Good to have you, Kathe.
Yes, it's nice to have you, Kath. Kath, what is something that, and it can be anything, that scares you the most?
Tax evasion? It does.
Tax evasion?
Yeah. Well, anything to do with taxes
okay.
and, doing it wrong and getting caught and then prison sex. Just the whole thing.
Is that
too soon? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's not too soon. Okay. I don't know. Is it for you? I don't know. I feel like this is very personal. So tax, being audited, does that freak you out?
Oh, no, I'm audited all the time. I think more so it's that the long answer to this is that I am afraid that when I'm a widow, I'm going to be my next husband or companion is going to be somebody who committed tax fraud or tax evasion, and then I'm stuck with the burden of that.
Oh, I thought you were actively trying to evade taxes.
No, I'm afraid. No, I'm afraid that I'm doing it by accident or that I'm going to be with somebody who does that. And then I'm embroiled in that.
Oh,
does that make any sense?
Yeah, I mean,
no?
that's scary, going to jail for something, right? Would you say jail scares you?
Mm-hmm. Right. Oh, absolutely. Jail doesn't scare you?
I don't know. I feel like jail is one of those things where, like, yes, it's terrifying and I'd prefer not to attend. However, I like a lot of routine, and I feel like it's a lot of routine.
Yeah, but if someone makes you their bitch, that's no fun.
Fair. I mean, yeah, that's not fun at all.
No.
I saw Shawshank. I know what happened.
It's not just like Shawshank. I don't think you can always have posters and stuff up. Like, it's not like that. Sometimes they're not clean. I mean, I would go to like that first like white collar level one, that
where they played tennis.
Like the Real Housewives went to, where she got in super good shape. She did yoga every day and stuff. She was gone for like 18 months. Twice a day she got to do yoga. All she had to do was like clean up after people in the cafeteria and sit in her thoughts for 18 months. And then she went home and she joined this like bodybuilding contest and came in third. I'd do that.
No, you don't want to go to the jail where you're making toilet punch.
Exactly.
Carolyn, what exactly is toilet punch?
Well, I've never been in prison, so I'm not sure.
It's prison wine.
Yeah.
It's prison wine.
I don't know how to make that. What do you do it?
I actually do know how to make prison wine.
Well,
because I'm afraid if I do go to prison,
you want to be prepared.
You don't want to be without it.
I just think if I did go to prison, one of the things that would help cope is a little bit of wine at the end of the day.
Wait, so how do you make prison wine?
Well, it's a combination of things. I'll send it to you later. But
I'm good, thank you.
Oh, okay.
Right.
But it is. You have to be real resourceful, okay? But there are fruits involved and like vinegar and stuff, and
that always confused me. That if you're making wine in your toilet, where do you go to the bathroom?
In your sink.
Oh
yeah, there you go. Why don't you just make the wine in your sink then?
Why don't you just make the wine in the sink?
I don't know.
Oh.
I've never been to prison.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
So my reference points are not.
So that's my fear.
Okay, great. That seems all fine. Yeah. We are going to be discussing on this episode of the Fraidy Cat Podcast, we're going to talk about aliens. And the reason we're talking about, you just made a huge face. Yeah. Do you not like aliens?
I like Sigourney Weaver, but I don't like aliens.
Kathe keeps picking up her microphone and holding it like she is
A daytime Emmy Award winner.
I don't like alien movies. I don't enjoy those at all. I'm fascinated by aliens. I want to see the ship. I do not want to see the people or the beings on the ship.
I would be fine with listen, I think there is something out there, and I just hope that if it does happen to me or if it has happened to me, I don't remember it. Because if I can't remember it, then it's fine.
I feel like our government recently basically told us there are aliens with all the weather balloon stuff and everything. They were we can't confirm that it was aliens, but they're not confirming it wasn't aliens.
Right.
So I think there's something to it.
I mean, I think we'd have to be really egotistical to think that we're the only living beings. We're like in a small section of the galaxy. Is that the right thing? So
I understand. I get that, but also
we're not scientists. If you're listening, we're not scientists.
The only thing with this is that anytime you envision an alien, it looks like a malnutrition toddler with a hoodie on, and I just think like, is that true? You know what I mean? Like that they look.
Yeah.
Is that the only?
Well, there's other aliens that people say are among us. That
Oh,
look
really?
like us, but they have alien underneath.
Are you teasing your story?
No, not at all.
All right.
I forget what they're called. There's like gray aliens and there's green aliens.
I don't know about any of that.
Google it.
Okay, I will. I listened to this podcast recently called High Strange. It's Tenderfoot TV, Payne Lindsay. So I love him. I think he's great. We've talked about this. He's a great podcaster, a great journalist. This podcast, I don't know why I listened to it. I don't know why, because I drive alone. All three of us do. I drive alone at night on back roads.
I know. No, you don't do that. Don't do that.
And I listened to this podcast.
Well, if you're a comedian in New England, you drive at night on back roads.
Right.
Yeah, but you don't listen to.
Oh,
you don't.
yeah.
Yeah, this was all about unpacking the alien phenomenon. They talk about Area 51. They talk about how, to Carolyn's point, how now we're having all of this information surface that actually pilots have seen things out when they're traveling. There was this great story about, it dates way back. That's the thing that's the scariest part to me.
Well, I think they're leaking it to us slowly because they didn't think that normal people could handle it back then.
We can't.
No, because there's two different schools of thought. Like if you know about it, you're like, oh, okay, whatever. You're fine with it. And then there's the other thought that people will freak the fuck out.
Yeah.
And then they'll have, more problems.
I equate it to when you find out you have mice, right? Like we all live in New England. So at some point in your life, when you live in the Northeast, you might have mice in your house, right? Just because they look for somewhere warm to go. In the wintertime, if I know that it's a mouse, I'm okay with it. I'm like, oh, we have mice. That's what that scratching is or whatever. But it never fails that the second I see one, I'm like, what? There's a noise that I make that's not even a scream. It's like a, I freak out.
I've done that
too.
too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not a scream. It's more like a, no! It's that type of, and I don't know why. I mean, you could probably step on it, but I tiptoe and I do that quick step.
Step on a mouse?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're fast, they're pretty fast.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you could, in theory. I mean,
it would be pretty gross.
Have you ever been in a position though that I get the mice thing, because sometimes when I'm walking back from a show, I'm like, just don't look, just don't look. But have you ever done that with an alien? Thinking
well, I haven't run into an alien yet.
I ran into a possum one night, late night, and that scared the shit out of me. But if I ran into an alien, I mean, I'd freak out.
That's what I'm saying.
I wouldn't be like, hey, where are you from?
Yeah.
No, but have you ever been in a situation where you're thinking, I wonder if there's aliens here? You know?
Oh, I assume there's always aliens.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
So, I don't. Only when it's like a big field or something.
So when I take the dog out in the middle of the night, Betty is my dog. I have to take a brief moment just to talk about my dog. She's the cutest dog. She's little. She's 14 pounds. She loves Carolyn.
Okay.
But when I take her out in the middle of the night, I immediately think this would be a really good time for me to be abducted because no one knows I'm out here except for the dog, and she does not know how to tell anyone. So I always think there's
I've had moments like that. My friend lives on an island in Lake Wentworth, and they left me out there once. They went to get more people. So
seem like good friends.
Yeah.
Wait.
No, because there's
a lot of holes in this story.
There's a small boat. So the keg was out there. I was out there with the keg and the bonfire. I had to keep stoking the fire. They went to get more people. And they left me alone. And now you start hearing stuff in the woods. And I'm sitting on the dock, and I'm going, what the
But you go right to aliens? Because I would go to strangers or rodents.
It's just that feeling of feeling alone, but knowing there's something else out there and you don't know what it is.
Oh, okay. Right.
I mean, I feel like I think there are aliens out there. I would be interested to see the ship, but I don't want to see.
You'd have to get probed. That's like the rule.
Is there a ship?
If you get to see the ship, you have to be probed.
No, I don't think that's a rule.
I think it is with the aliens.
No. I don't think so.
That's like
that.
That's your cover charge.
I don't know, but that's that whole.
That's
theory.
your cover charge to see the ship.
No, I don't want to go on the ship. I want to see it in the sky and be like, oh, what is that?
Why are you assuming that there's a ship?
How else would they get here, Kathy? A boat?
Maybe. Like the thing is that they're aliens, so it's not like they don't need to have a ship. I mean, don't they live by? Here? But don't they live by different? Because they're a different energy, correct?
No,
it's not like
it's from space, so they need a ship.
Okay, Carolyn.
I like it.
They can't like lightsaber over here. I don't know. Maybe they have a scooter or something. Maybe they themselves are just like a capsule or something, or they shed that skin and they get. I don't know.
You think they're just beaming here like Star Trek?
Yeah, I do.
Oh,
I do.
I get what you're saying now.
I do. Yeah.
I mean,
their energy's just coming.
Yes, exactly. That's what I mean.
What you're saying.
Or I was like a vortex.
Because you two are like the ship. The ship.
That's what's been documented.
Yeah, that's what's been documented.
Okay.
I like how we're fighting with our guest. Kathy, that's what's been documented, so get out.
They're not coming over the water. They're coming from space.
Well, there is some evidence, though, that they were
underwater.
They're actually underwater, and they are...
Well, I'm never swimming again.
You just ruined lakes, oceans.
We're coming up on bikini season, and you just ruined everything.
Well, we have some stories that we brought that are of some interest in this realm. And I chose one that I heard about on High Strange that I had heard about before. Growing up in the Northeast, like I said, we're out of Boston, but you hear all the stories here. Now, I grew up in the great state of Maine, and there is a story about these guys that were up in the logging area up in Maine, and they claimed they were out in a canoe at midnight, I'm guessing smoking weed, and they were abducted.
That was on Moosehead Lake.
Yeah. There's not a lot of evidence around that one, so they might have been eating mushrooms too. So that's
fair.
This one is about Betty and Barney Hill, and this is a couple that they're a married couple, interracial couple, which is interesting to the time. This happened in 1961. And they live in Portsmouth, New Hampshire during this time, and they went on a delayed honeymoon up to Niagara Falls and Montreal. They're in Canada. Well, on their journey home, as they're driving, they look to the sky, and there's a beautiful moon out, and Betty sees something that's flying next to the moon or moving with the moon, and she assumes that it's a star. After watching it, it's getting closer and closer, and when they observed it, they thought that it looked like a giant pancake. So it keeps getting closer and keeps getting closer, and they realize that it's actually like following them, which must have been terrifying.
I would like a giant pancake to follow me for different reasons.
I'd like a giant pancake. Yeah, so they have this thing, it's following them, and long story short, they lost time, which is classic alien abduction. They lost time. They actually lost mileage. It was between like 30 and 35 miles. They lost time, they lost mileage, and they woke to be further down the road. So after this happens, there's all this documentation everywhere about. I know we can do this because you can edit us. Is everything okay? Oh, yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
He's checking the time.
I'm like, please don't make me do this again.
They just were abducted.
Yeah. Great. Okay, so they lose this time. It was about 2 hours, about 35 miles. And they get home and they don't feel anything other than confused, right? Over the next few hours, though, they start to realize that they're feeling some sensations. They've got some buzzing sensations in their ears.
They got probed.
Can you say that one more time?
They got probed.
I just hope they're catching that on film of you leaning in quietly.
They got
That's
probed.
what they started feeling.
Well,
the probe actor.
The after probe. They basically started noticing they had a pair of binoculars and the strap was broken. Betty's dress was ripped and covered in a pink dust, kind of like this odd pink dust. The tops.
You know what I think that is.
What?
Alien spooge.
It's an alien money shot.
Exactly.
They were like.
Pink glitter.
Yeah, pink glitter. That's what you think. Alien.
They made some alien porn in the White Mountains.
I have my own theory about this, but
Go ahead. Oh, you want to wait, or you want to
yeah,
no.
No.
The tops of Barney's shoes were actually all scuffed up on the toes, like he had been dragged, and their watches were frozen in time and never worked again. They couldn't get them working again. So there were some signs that something had happened, and these are normal, like everyday people. Barney worked for the United States Postal Service. Betty's a social worker. They got back to their home. They drove through the night, got to their house. Betty decided she wanted to leave the luggage outside because they knew something had happened and they remembered seeing something in the sky, but then it becomes very confusing and it's a total blur. So she leaves everything outside. They took multiple showers thinking maybe they had been contaminated by something. Betty hung her dress in the closet of their bedroom and left it untouched. What happened after this is where it gets really, really, this is what makes me feel terrified. They underwent a lot of hypnosis therapy to see if they couldn't bring back some of the memories that they had, if there were any. And the two of them were hypnotized in separate sessions, and they were not allowed to discuss anything that went on individually in the sessions. And their stories synced up. So Barney's story was...
But didn't they start having like panic attacks and like nightmares and stuff, which led to the hypnosis?
So Betty specifically, about 10 days after the abduction, the alleged abduction, she started having nightmares, and they lasted for 5 nights consecutively. She said they were the most vivid, like graphic nightmare. Kathy has something to say. What, Kath?
No. I'm going to do it at the end.
Okay. She had these nightmares, and they lasted just 5 nights, and then they went away, and they never came back. Barney was having a lot of panic attacks, as Carolyn said, and a lot of just anxiety. I read that he felt the urge to check on his genitals. I couldn't even say it.
Genitals.
Genitals.
Because he got probed.
His dick. He had to go check his dick. Now...
What, in the other room? Like, what are you talking about?
No, like he kept feeling the urge that he needed to check himself over.
Like something wasn't right. In his
That's every American man. What are you talking about? My husband walks around with like his hand in his pants, you know?
Well, you know when something's not right then.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the point.
The other piece of evidence that's really key, put your trophy down for a second. She picked up her mic and brought it to her face. That's every man. The other thing that was interesting is that on the back of their car, there were 2 circles that were like indentations, imprints. And if you went near them, the radioactive monitor would like go berserk. Also, if you had a compass and you went near the vehicle in that area, it would like spin out of control. So something definitely went on with these folks. These folks, I don't know why I said it like that. These nice folks. These nice folks. Do you have anything to add, Kathy, Carolyn?
Do you want my...
Yes.
That's why you're here.
So...
That's why we invited you.
Now...
Yes.
Newlyweds on the honeymoon.
Yes.
What happens after the big day is that you start grieving this whole thing of like, this was your big day. This was a big thing. It's a big milestone. And now nothing. Niagara Falls and then back to work, right?
Yeah.
What I see here are two people that wanted to do community theater, have some magnets and a little time on their hands, and decided, you know what? This would be a good story. Like, we need to keep the focus on us. We need to make it about us because we don't have our special day anymore, and we don't want to have kids right now. So, what's the next big thing? It's a real thing. Ask any bride. You know, it's a real thing where you feel like, what's next? What's next? And there was a long car ride, and all of this stuff can be explained. I mean, especially back then, you know, those like barometers and meters that they had was like, you know, a 6th grade science project.
Well, here's the thing about this story, because I'm familiar with
Carolyn loves this story.
They actually didn't want to come forward at all, and they were very reluctant.
Okay.
No, they were really reluctant for 2 reasons. That in the time they were an interracial couple, and it was before 1968. It's like 61. So they didn't want to come forward because of that, because they didn't want to be judged, even though they were being judged because society was different then. And they didn't come forward until after she started having the nightmares, and they were like, okay, something went down.
Right.
We need to figure out what's going on. So they didn't want to bring this to the public, but they felt like they had to because they were trying to figure out what the hell happened to them.
Right.
This is the story. I don't know them personally. Clearly, I wasn't born.
I'm going to stick with my theory.
Okay. Let's unpack it more.
Okay.
So the alleged UFO sighting happened at 10:30 p.m. And this is where it gets a little scary for me because it was on Route 3 South, which is like every gig. If you're a comedian in the New England area, you travel Route 3 all the time to get here, there, and everywhere. So I'm like, oh, great. The road I'm always on. Again, want to see the vehicle or whatever it is, but not necessarily the people. Here's the short version. I could read this to you. If you want more information, you can look on the internet. But here's the short version. Barney, when he was hypnotized, he says that he and Betty were driving along. Betty sees the pancake, points it out to him. He decides that he wants to drive a little bit further to see if it follows them. It follows them. They pull over and stop the car. Barney gets out with his binoculars and he looks up at the pancake. And it's close enough now where he can see that the pancake has windows that curve around the entire front of the ship, the vehicle. And inside, he can see that there are beings, people, whatever they are, walking around. He said he wanted to look away, but he couldn't. He felt compelled to keep looking and keep looking. And as he kept looking, they got closer and closer. Finally, he manages to look away, and he goes and gets back in the car, and he said, we have to get out of here. They're trying to take us. They drive like crazy down this road, only to come upon what looked like a traffic stop, like a checkpoint. And they said Barney, according to him, the aliens were standing in the road. And they guided him. I know, when you talk about it, it's kind of like, really, Barney? Are you all right?
Is that a deer? No, it's an alien.
No, it's just an alien. So Barney is led to the ship. He is put on a metal table.
And this is when his genitals were probably...
The probes.
Yeah, the probes.
His dink hole.
They take samples, that's the thing.
Okay.
That's
what
like
samples?
what everybody describes. Samples of fluids and stuff because they're researching us.
So gross.
I just don't get this whole following thing. What were they, tailgating them?
Well, see, that's my thing. I don't think I would follow one. Like, not any more than if I saw like,
well, hey,
is that a Bigfoot? Let me drive and follow that big. Like, I'm not following.
But if they're in the air, isn't everything like, you know, when you're driving,
yeah,
like,
true.
is the moon, you know?
Yeah.
If there were cell phones back there, they'd probably have footage. If their cell phone worked.
Yeah. I mean, in 1961.
Well, I guess so. But if you were doing this whole big story because of a downfall of your last milestone.
All right. this is interesting. The huge silent craft, this is Barney's thoughts, hovered about 80 to 100 feet above the hills in their Chevy Bel Air. And it filled the entire field of view in the windshield. So they're saying this huge thing is in front of them. And then they see 8 to 11 is what Barney said. 8 to 11, which I think is a really weird number. Figures came and took him to the ship. He was probed, like you say, Carolyn. They took samples, what have you. And then they lost time. They wake up. He goes to the bathroom, checks his genitals every 3 to 5 hours. Betty says...
Isn't that when, like, there was cocaine and coke back then?
I mean, I guess, but this couple seems like a normal...
Okay, yeah, but maybe you have a 6-pack of coke and a lot of red M&Ms, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
and you're not feeling really great.
How do you explain the shoes, the dress, the binoculars, the pink? There were crystals on the dress, too. It's been analyzed many, many times.
Okay, so she bought a cheap dress. She had some cotton candy, right? What was it, the shoe? I mean...
His shoes were scraped on the toes like he'd been dragged.
Okay, that you just take the shoes out and you reenact it.
Barney had a recollection of
This
observing
is
the humanoid forms wearing glossy black uniforms and black caps. Now, to be fair, that lost me a little bit.
That sounds like the Nazis.
or a really bad rendition of Chicago.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Let's talk about Betty. Betty...
You're like, I'm done with Barney.
Barney
and his genitals are put to bed.
Here's the deal, though. So on this High Strange podcast with Payne Lindsay, I think I'm obsessed with Payne Lindsay. I love him.
Why are you promoting their podcast?
He has such a great voice.
He has such a great voice. Everything he does is fantastic. I love every podcast he's ever put out.
Side note, though, his voice doesn't match his face. Go.
His voice doesn't match his face.
No.
Fair. Payne Lindsay, Tenderfoot TV. I'm a subscriber. So Barney says he was compelled to examine his genitals in the bathroom, though he found nothing unusual. His dick looked the same, and so did his balls. They took long showers to remove possible contamination, and each drew a picture of what they had observed. So
he's doing dick pics. He's sketching dick pics.
No, not his dick.
No, of what happened. Not his dick.
Okay. So then they both tried to. This is during the thing. Oh.
This is what my dick.
It's like an etch a sketch.
So my dick looked like this before, and then after it looked seemingly the same.
He seems like a guy who's proud of his junk, and he just wants people to know it.
Well, maybe that's why Betty married Barney.
Maybe.
Right?
We don't know.
I mean, Betty was also hypnotized, right? So she was hypnotized after she had these dreams. That's when they went in for all the hypnosis. Her dreams, they said that. She said that when she was on the table, they took a long needle and put it in her navel, and it was to check to see if she was pregnant.
Yeah, because that's what they do. That's the probing part.
No, you say it like you did your annual visit.
If you read all about the alien abductions, not just this one,
right?
They all have a similar.
It's like a standard practice.
Yes, a shared.
Like this
experience.
is an intake form.
Yeah.
And then they come back and they abduct the same people to see where they're at like 10 years later. Yeah. It's horrifying.
Yeah. I feel like that would, I mean.
Were these people abducted 10 years later?
No, but there's other people that have said, I was abducted, then I was abducted again. And, maybe they're all crackpots, but they all have a shared experience.
Right.
That sucks. If you got abducted and then you got abducted again.
You're like, damn it.
Right.
So she wrote down the details of one of her dreams. This is terrifying. In one dream, she and Barney encountered a roadblock and men who surrounded their car. She lost consciousness and she started to struggle to regain it. Then she realized that she was being forced by two small men to walk in a forest at night, and of seeing Barney walking behind her, though when she called to him, he seemed to be in a trance or sleepwalking. The men stood 5 feet to 5 feet 4 inches tall.
So they're
This sounds like a hike for Boy Scouts. What are you talking about?
They're Kelly's height.
Yeah, I mean they're like I'm just shy of 5 feet. They wore matching blue uniforms, and the caps were similar to those worn by military cadets.
Boy Scouts.
They appeared nearly human with black hair, dark eyes, prominent nose, and bluish lips. Their skin was grayish in color.
They're gray aliens.
Yeah.
I have a thought on this.
Please do.
Okay,
That's why I paused.
I know that
can
you're
feel
putting a
it.
lot on the fact like they were both hypnotized
Yes.
and
Hypnotized.
and
Yes.
but here's the thing: have you ever gone to one of these like X-rated hypnotist shows
Yes.
where they basically plant stuff in your head
Yes.
and then you say those things back? This is what this sounds like.
You think so?
Yeah,
You think
I
that
mean,
he's like leading?
yeah, honestly, I could come into you like if this was like 61 you said?
1961.
Okay, what if I came into you and was like, "Oh yeah, I just had just these guys are following me. I think I was abducted. Look at my dress. Oh, my shoes are all scraped up. Also, I had this really bad dream about like David Hasselhoff and a Chipotle. You know what I mean? Like, believe me."
I love the way that you say Chipotle.
Thank you.
Chipotle.
I don't say library.
Say library. Yeah,
Library.
that's right. You can't.
Library.
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 Oh, Carolyn and I were on a show recently, and we saw the old police commissioner for Boston, and it made us remember when you said library. It made us remember we used to watch. We were roommates for a long time, and we watched the news, and we loved the Boston accent when they were reporting on the news. Oh, he ran through the park, then he came through the library, and then up, and he was hiding.
He was hiding in the ceiling.
He was a hiding in it, perpetrator.
This woman didn't blink for like
yeah.
a minute and a half.
Telling her
because we
story.
tried to do it and we couldn't do it.
I don't know what that has to do with it.
On the news?
Yeah, they were interviewing.
She was probably abducted.
I went to a funeral recently. That's not funny.
Stop bragging.
No, but they had someone read from the Book of Corinthians. I had to leave for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, Massachusetts is fun. Yeah.
On the 6th day.
And now we're reading from the Book of Corinthians.
Love is patient. Love is kind. Okay. Betty's account was similar let's just leave it at that, under hypnosis. It was very similar. She did talk about they checked her to see if she was pregnant by using this long needle through her navel. The one thing that I couldn't find was any medical evidence that they had been touched.
Because they didn't go in right away either.
Fair. However, if you have a long needle injected into your navel, aren't you going to have
Yeah, but look
some
at the
sort
technology now with surgery compared to 1961.
Well, listen,
if they're an advanced race, they may have been doing laser surgery and stuff that we don't even know about yet.
That's true.
I'm just saying.
But if he was having all this trouble with his genitals, do you think you'd go in and get that checked?
I think they drained his junk. That's what I think happened. Because they typically.
Wait, what do you mean?
I want to barf right now.
Because typically when you read about alien abductions, they're taking samples of reproductive stuff because they're researching our race.
Okay, so what do they give him, crabs? And he's like walking around?
No,
like,
No,
I mean,
I think
they
Carolyn
took a
is-
sample and like when you are trying to get pregnant and they put it in a jar
No,
and
I
they brought it
agree.
back to their planet.
But then it aggravated him? Because
They may have probed him in his junk. I don't
Okay.
know. I wasn't there.
I feel like you're implying, Carolyn, that this is like when you have to test semen on like a horse or a goat and someone has to actually make that happen.
If they're only 4 feet tall, someone did have to do that.
Oh gosh. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about how this is going.
that's actually a real thing, though. Yeah.
The way that you're talking about how they come back 10 years later, it reminds me of like sharks that they tag
yeah.
Yep.
and go check on.
That's the
Oh,
same
yeah.
type of deal that they do.
Same type of deal.
No, if you read,
Maybe he was
there's,
tagged.
There's some people that have said that they came back, like that they've been abducted multiple times, and maybe it's a psychiatric thing, and it's not.
Right.
You know, if you don't believe in aliens, maybe it's just people having
Yeah.
this thing. You know what I
Well,
mean?
I do like that you're like, no, that's standard practice.
Well,
No,
if you-
that's
I've
what
read
they do.
a ton of these. And
Okay.
they all kind of have this similar.
Okay.
Are you guys?
I want-
are we picking up your voices at all?
Enough.
I love that.
Enough,
Yeah,
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
All right,
It's
good.
leaking just enough to where it sounds like we're in the back.
Okay, good.
No, that was a good question.
Yeah, I love that. Please
Or a
talk
good
to us more.
observation. It wasn't a question.
Because I think that's
I'm
hilarious.
trying to laugh as much as possible.
Thank you.
But just enough that it's not picking up.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we love being laughed. There are many shows that you can watch. I did a little, since that's what we always ask each other, what are you watching right now? All three of us are very good friends. you can actually go on and find shows about this, documentaries. Discovery, Apple TV has one, Prime Video has one. There's tons on YouTube, tons. And I know I keep talking about it, but High Strange, they actually have recordings of it's a great resource if this stuff interests you.
Betty, pick up your pancakes, Betty.
Pick up your pen. Pick up Betty, please. I will say that there was one interesting thing in here that I did want to point out.
One interesting?
Yeah. So...
It's a few.
So
I went to school with that guy.
Okay. So I have a photo here. I have 2 photos here. We'll put them in the show notes. So an alien played by actor John Hoyt, depicted on the television 12 days before the making of Hill's gray hypnosis sketch. So it's a picture.
That could have been in his subconscious.
Yes, it could have been in his subconscious. So there's this picture of this actor playing an alien, and then his picture kind of looks like the Grinch.
This is his picture?
Yeah.
This is his.
This is what he drew under hypnosis. And again, this is in the show notes. And this is the one that was on TV. So they're saying that, it could have actually been in his subconscious if he was like watching TV before.
That doesn't look anything like that guy.
I mean, this one's wearing a hat.
First of all, the one that you're referencing about the movie looks like.
Does he have a mustache?
Looks like Voldemort, kind of.
And a little bit of Hulk Hogan, but with right.
Yes,
got a
but with
mustache.
The handlebar mustache.
Yeah.
There's no mustache in this sketch of
There's
this.
no facial, there's no mouth.
And again, he's like.
It looks like an angry strawberry. It does.
It kind of
Fair
does.
enough.
That's
Fair
fair
enough.
enough. I can't think of a better way to. That's a great place to
Like,
stop
how
this
long did it
story.
take him to do that? And then when they came back in the room, like, okay.
Well, and in his when they're being hypnotized, they're freaking out. Like, they are losing it. Barney specifically is like
the trauma came back.
crying, and he's scared, and it's something happened to these people. I don't know what happened. I can only assume that it's what they said happened to them.
Yeah, something did happen, and it was just a really bad honeymoon, you know?
So Barney and Betty Hill abducted in 1961 on roads that we travel on all the time.
I'm sorry if I sounded combative about it.
I think it's okay. That's why you're here. We want to talk
Oh,
about
okay,
it.
okay. Because
conversation.
listen, I believe in the energy and all of that stuff. It just there's just
Kathe,
a lot
you
of
don't
holes in the
have to agree
story.
with
You
those.
don't.
Okay. Oh,
You'll
all
probably
right,
hate
good.
this one too.
I think it's interesting because if you believe in aliens, it's really hard to get around the God theme. So it's like, how do you believe in both? You know what I mean?
It's like the dinosaurs. How do you believe in the dinosaurs and also believe that God created Earth?
Right.
Some
Yeah.
people don't.
It's really hard. There's some truth in there. I don't know what it is.
I don't know what I believe in any of this stuff anyway. I just believe that there's something out there. There's something
Yes.
bigger than myself. All of that.
And you think they are just
I don't know if they were flying
beaming
around in a
here.
pancake,
Right.
assaulting, Barney's genitals. But maybe I don't know.
This episode's called Barney's Genitals.
Barney's junk.
All right, what do you got, Carolyn?
So mine is also an alien abduction.
Great.
But this one happened I picked a Massachusetts one because you did New Hampshire.
Okay.
And this one happened in the Berkshires in 1969.
A place I go very often.
Exactly.
You're ruining Tanglewood for me. Go.
Yeah. Well, I'm ruining Canyon Ranch for Kelly.
Oh.
So this happened September 1st, and about 40 people.
What year?
In
69.
1969.
Okay.
And
I was like, you mean last year?
about 40 people in the Berkshire County, Massachusetts, reported seeing the UFO.
No.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people that saw it, and this one kid named Thomas Reed said that his family was taken aboard, and probed and whatnot.
His whole family?
Yes, because they were coming home from dinner, and they saw this. So it was the evening. They had just had dinner, and they were in Sheffield. I don't know exactly where Sheffield is in the Berkshires. And people saw lights, and they were attached to a UFO. And then they went through a covered bridge, and when they came out, they saw this UFO. And it was disc shaped, not a pancake. And
Parked or in the sky?
in the sky. It performed acrobatic maneuvers in the sky above the Berkshires. It's unclear exactly how long it lasted, but people saw it and they described losing track of time. Again, the same.
It sounds like a light show, but go ahead.
Could be. It's 1969.
That's right.
So, and then they explain where the Berkshires are, but I'm not going to do that. So there's only 3,000 people that live in this area that saw it, but 40 people claim to have seen something in the sky that night. So this kid, they called the radio station, and everyone was reporting it. And some that were children still live there today. But the Reed family, they were the ones that this guy still believes. Yeah, I didn't highlight.
No.
Yeah, she didn't highlight.
But according to the Reed's account, he saw the UFO when he was 9 years old while he was in the car with his mother, grandmother, and brother.
Oh, wait a minute.
You know this one. It was on Unsolved Mysteries.
Yes.
As Reed recalled, the family was heading home from their restaurant, Village on the Green, and he was busy giving his brother a little fireball candy. Suddenly, they noticed a mass of glowing lights peeking out from behind the lush trees on the empty road. The strange lights continued to spill out from behind the trees, and the family crossed the covered Sheffield Bridge, but they didn't know what to make of the sight. We all looked at it because it was kind of a self-contained glow. It rose up a little bit, and we looked like it followed the dirt road, which I'm sure it probably didn't, but it appeared that way because we could see it through the trees. The light started to bleed through once we broke into a little bit of a clearing. We could see inside the car, so the light was flooding inside the car. After an amber glow emerged on both sides of the road, Reed recalled being taken to a hangar-like area that was bigger than a football field. We encountered something. It was definitely not of this world. We had a black and white television at the time, and the imagery that we saw in this thing was unbelievable. There were lights that looked like fluorescent tubing inside this hangar. This hallway we had seen was circular with a Y configuration, almost to control the flow of traffic. This one room had a bowed-in wall that was rounded. This was not something that you could have seen in 1969 anywhere else. I have no idea where I was, but I know what I saw was very different than anything I've seen today 50 years later. Glimpses of this strange place muddied his brain until he realized they were back inside the car. His grandmother and mother had switched seats. More astonishing, there were no more glowing lights. And so this was just on Unsolved Mysteries, the new series on Netflix. I think it was the first season, not the second season. But he said everything got really calm. It was like being in the middle of a hurricane. There was like a barometric change in pressure. It was like a dead silence. Then there was an eruption of crickets and frogs, and it got really loud, and that was it. So it was really confusing. He's been vocal about it since it happened. He still talks about it. And the thing that's ironic about this one is they've said that they've marked this as a real thing in this town, and they put up a monument saying that it happened. People defaced it, and they had to make a smaller one. But they have what?
Is that the picture of it? Is that in a museum or something?
That's
that
him.
alien picture? No, not him.
No,
that's him.
From Communion, the Whitley Schreiber story about the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Being abducted. But that's what everybody says the gray aliens look like.
Okay.
I don't want to see that. I'm just pointing it out.
But the town officials actually documented as a historical thing. And then people were like you, were like, that didn't happen. And now there's still a monument. It's just smaller. But this is the plaque.
Really?
Well, they have a plaque
They
then.
have a plaque.
Well, then there you go.
The Society recognizes it as a real thing.
There you go.
But there's a park there now where you can picnic next to where they got abducted. It's a UFO park.
I have to tell you, like, I didn't know you were going to do aliens, and I didn't really understand that. I just don't.
This is works.
That's works. How I really felt about this, where it's like I really just don't believe any of this. First of all,
for real?
no, I don't, because
Well, that's
the
the impression I got when
Berkshires.
we talked about Barney and Betty.
I'm gathering that from
No,
you.
I'm trying to be open-minded to this, but here's the thing. When you first said, like, 40 people in the Berkshires, that's like the class of 1969. It could just be the whole class that got together.
Well,
like, it's not that there's not a lot of people that live there. Like, I have a friend who lived there, and, like, there aren't a lot of people. I get that. Also, It sounds like this kid was like on a big sugar high. Because have you ever had one of those atomic fireballs?
Yes, I ate a ton of them as a kid.
Yeah, but eat
very
it the wrong way, right? Or like you start chewing on it, like things get kind of messed up.
So he was 9 when this
He
happened.
was 9. His brother was there. His mom and his
brother
grandmother
was
were there, and they were in a station wagon because it's 1969. But here's the thing, Kathe. It's not like he knew the story of Betty and Barney Hill at 9. And if you look at the same thing happened to them. They lost time. They saw lights. They went into some sort of vessel. And that's the part, if you go down the rabbit hole on the internet and you read about people that were abducted, they have almost the same exact story. I know you don't have to believe, but I'm just saying that
I feel like, like you said about the other one, what is the testing that went on? Did they get medical exams? What did the interview look like? Most of the
people that talk about being tested and probed, they're looking at our reproductive system and our bodies and how they work. And some people believe that they're looking for another vessel to live in because their planet is dying. And there's another whole school of thought that they're already here and there's hybrids walking among us.
Someone's been watching Netflix.
No.
I just feel,
This is just stuff I've read over the years.
When you mentioned that at the top of this about that there are aliens among us, I honestly think that's going to be the next thing. You know how everybody says, and I get this because like I have anxiety myself, but like everybody has anxiety now and ADHD, and daddy issues. Like the next thing is going to be like, oh, you know what it is that I think my partner is an alien. You know what I mean?
My
boss
is
a
hybrid.
Right.
And
right.
He's not loading the dishwasher and he licks the plates. Yeah, no, I know.
The thing with this one that fascinates me is so many people saw it and reported the same thing, but they weren't all in the same spot. They were calling into this radio station and I just saw this. And they happened to be in the whole path of the thing.
I mean, the Berkshires it's really dark out there. Like if anybody's listening, you don't know what this is. It's a very
and it's mountainous. A lot of these happen in the mountains.
Yeah, it's super, which is the same for the story with the
They
hills.
were in the White Mountains.
They were in the White Mountains.
It's like they hang out in the mountains.
I do see a theme here, though. I really do, which is that sometimes, things just aren't exciting anymore, and like we need to create our own happiness and drama. And I think a lot of, have you ever stayed more than 2 days in the Berkshires? Like, especially in 69, there's like no podcasts. There's not, you know what I mean? There's not
I
that
tried to
stuff.
get a pizza delivered at Canyon Ranch.
Thank you, exactly. There's no pizza. Like, so you've got to make your own fun, right? And it seemed like they got a lot of attention with this.
Canyon Ranch. You just have to walk to the gate to get it. And if you're going to walk to the gate,
you might as well even get it.
I feel like you're making my point for me.
I mean, you bring up very good points. I think the interesting part about aliens and aircrafts and what do they call it now? It's not UFO. It's
a something.
Yeah. We're great. We're really good at
research.
research.
I'm really glad you guys did
your
your research
Google
on that.
Guys, we're really good at research.
My phone was ringing, so I threw it on the floor. So.
Yes, we're really good at research.
Honestly, you kind of are pretty good at research. This is ridiculous.
UAPs?
Yes,
UAPs.
And thank you, by the way. And what does this stand for? What does UAP stand for?
It's unidentified
aliens.
Something.
Unidentified anomalous phenomena.
Yeah. So I feel like even the name has changed, right? It's unidentified
anomalous
phenomenon.
Because they're not directly saying it's a craft. They're just saying it's something we can't explain.
Well, and I think because now it's past the point, to your point, Carolyn, from the beginning of this, they have known for a long time that there's
files. The blue. What was the show?
Oh, there's files.
No,
in an area. Excuse me. Listen, I'm not saying
Do you think
that.
JFK there was only one shooter, Kathe? Because I think that will clear up a lot of what you're saying.
Yeah.
The magic bullet is real.
I'll listen. I am probably going to be proven wrong. I don't know if it's exactly this though. I think
you're gonna
that
get
like
probed now. They're listening.
Don't say that. Oh my God, no, I'm not.
You're going to be checking
to
your
They're
junk.
listening to the Fraidy Cat
You know,
podcast.
first
on
of all-
Planet X, and they're going, That Kathe, we need to
I
teach
hope
her
to
a
God I don't
lesson.
want to
Let's
be
get a
the
look at her
representation like of
probe her
our
genitals.
humankind.
She seems pregnant.
And angry.
I'm gonna rip her dress.
But a
it
little
looks like
sad.
she only wears pants and sneakers.
Exactly.
Oh, fine.
It's called the blue. What are the files?
Oh,
It's
the blue files. Yeah.
The blue files.
There's
Because they opened the blue files recently
Yeah.
with the whole redaction of files, like the JFK file. They're supposed to. But there was a show on where they reenacted what was in the files, and there's this famous guy that I can't think of his name, who was a UFO researcher, and it was all about him and what the government was telling him to tell people so that they didn't panic. He was like the UFO guy. Like,
But couldn't that the other way though? Here's the thing: if this is true, then why hasn't anybody else come forward and said, there are disgruntled government workers that would be like, listen, I know about those blue
They
files.
have come
there are
forward.
people that have come forward.
So there's a gentleman that worked on one of the aircraft carriers that was involved in an incident where these Tic Tac shaped, and I might be crossing my lines here, but there's Tic Tac shaped vessels that were like following their ship for days and days.
that was one of the ones that came out when they started leaking
Right.
that it's real.
And he has actually come forward and he's talking about how he saw them. So why are we not talking about it? They knew where they were going on this mission before it was all classified. And when they sent their planes out, the Tic Tac ships were already there. They already knew about it. So they knew they have technology that is more advanced than us. And this is where it gets really
Who the aliens do?
Yeah,
Okay.
because this is where it gets interesting to me, and I don't understand it. I'm not good at this type of thing, so it's very abstract to me. They're living light years away from where we are, so think of how advanced we are now compared to 100 years ago. They're even more advanced than we are. So if we could get to their technology, to your point, maybe they don't need a ship. Maybe they can just beam here. She's not buying.
No. What you know what I'm thinking when you're saying this? I'm thinking in
That you wanna go to TJ
1969,
Maxx?
these aliens had like iPhones and they're just scrolling.
They're on
We
their
don't know.
Instagram
Right? That's what I'm
account.
saying. Like,
Yeah.
But that's part of the thing about Area 51 and the Roswell, New Mexico crash. They think that they tried to reverse engineer the technology that they had in the aircraft that crashed, if you believe the aircraft. It wasn't a weather balloon.
Right.
And one of the guys that found some of the debris said, there's no way it was a weather balloon. That's what they told me to say.
okay, I'm open-minded about Area 51.
Oh, interesting. Why does that open your mind? But
I think
other things don't?
I think there was a Simpsons episode that I really
fair enough. Where are
Just
we
be
at
honest.
time?
I'm just being honest.
The aliens on The Simpsons are real.
Yeah. So Area 51 is interesting, right? Because they say that's a whole vortex area. Like there's a whole energy thing. That's
Yeah, but we don't know
happening
that much about it.
And Mount
too,
Rainier,
right?
isn't that the other one where
Yes.
there's energy there? Because there is something about the pressure and the magnetic part. A lot of that is similar when people report these things happening. So that even if it isn't aliens, there's something weird going on.
I just wonder, like, if they're this light years ahead and all that, then why couldn't they just like erase any kind of memory of this so they would never be traced,
Like in Men in Black.
like in Men in Black?
And they just go, bloop.
I mean, maybe they are.
Like, is that a commentary on like the things that I'm taking information from, like Men in Black?
No, but Men in
like,
Black, that's one
on
of the,
Days of Our
and
Lives.
that's also alien technology.
My goodness. I think that you're right. I mean, maybe that is what they're doing though, because people are being dropped off and they've lost time. They don't remember what happened to them. It's
But
in
maybe
their
they don't know
subconscious.
enough about our brains that we hold on to stuff
Yeah.
in the subconscious.
Right, or maybe they don't care.
Yeah, I think they're just here to gather what they need to gather so that they can do whatever they're doing.
Like, okay,
They're weird.
here's where I'm open-minded to. Contact, that movie Contact with what's her name, Jodie Foster.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that I'm intrigued by. That where she loses like 18 minutes or something on
Yes.
the tape, like that. I am intrigued by, because I do believe in energy. I do believe in vibration. I do believe in all of that. I don't know if I believe in these angry strawberry men in pancakes coming and touching Barney's junk. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know about that.
Yeah. That's fair.
Fair?
Well, I mean, because we don't really know about any of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just enough evidence to be dangerous, right? It's enough for us to be able to have a podcast about it and talk about it for an hour, right?
I guess.
And there's a million stories we could talk about.
And there's a million stories that are similar that happen in, like, Alaska's a big place where stuff happens. And it seems to be these places that are very rural and not like cities. Like they go to these places because they feel like they're not gonna, encounter a ton of people, just enough for whatever their agenda is. But who knows?
I also feel like they could be in other places, but to your point, the Berkshires, super dark,
Desolate.
so of course you would see it. If they're flying over New York City, you're not seeing it. It's so bright there, you don't notice anything in the sky.
I mean, if there's anything that if I stepped back and I thought about this, I think maybe they would want them to be like me, because what this really sounds like is like a shitty science fair project.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Where you didn't put enough time into it, and everybody else is like the guy with the big eyes, and like, we lost time.
But why would so many people in so many different places have the same experience? The same shared experience?
Because in 1969, didn't they have like comic books and stuff about what aliens look like and stuff?
For sure.
So that, because Carolyn, sometimes people have runaway imaginations or loveless marriages, and they need something else.
It keeps coming back to the loveless marriage.
I didn't say it was I'm not saying that Betty and Barney had a loveless marriage. I'm just saying that they just got off this really big high of a milestone, and maybe they were trying to find something else.
So I want to share with both of you, because you know how my brain works. Betty and Barney are also the names of
The Flintstones.
the Flintstones' neighbors.
Yeah.
Betty and
The
Barney
Rubbles.
Rubble. And I went down a rabbit hole trying to decide because Hanna-Barbera did weird stuff like that.
I almost wore my Grey Gazoo t-shirt.
Yes, you love them.
I couldn't find it.
They do weird stuff like that. So I'm like, are they paying
Hello,
homage
dum-dums.
to this? Hello, dum-dums. With Betty and Barney Rubble. You know what I mean?
I
Because
don't
this is
think
right
so.
around the same time.
I don't think so. I think something happened to them, and I can't explain it because I've read a lot about them. This guy is very vocal about what happened to him as a kid, and he has never changed his story. in
Why
however
would
many
he? He's
years.
gotten into the paper. People talk to him.
He's on
He gets to be the-
Unsolved Mysteries, which is
He's
like
good-
my
yeah,
favorite
what are you
show from the
talking
80s
about?
and 90s.
He's living in the Berkshires. He's like, maybe the biggest thing that's
But
gonna
he also took a ton of shit for it and still sticks to his story.
notoriety.
No, a lot of these
No, I
folks
know.
that have been abducted and now they're coming forward and talking about it, or they've talked about it all along, they're not having an easy time.
No.
There was a gentleman.
People like you are coming with pitchforks
Yes.
and telling
I don't have a pitchfork, but I also don't have a scrapbook with all like the newspaper articles.
I
You know, right?
Fair enough, Kathy.
You don't
We're-
have to believe.
We're not here to change
I
your
believe
mind.
there's something.
I wish
out
I
there,
could,
and I
like-
believe they're coming here to gather information. What they're going to use it for, I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like the movie with Jeremy Renner about aliens because it was like there was no payoff at the end. It was just boring.
What movie's that?
The hell is that movie? Yes.
Oh.
At the end, you're like, they arrived, and you're like, oh, these
Is that the one with
jellyfish.
Amy Adams?
Yes.
Yeah. And
The
she-
acting was good in it, but at the end, there's just these jellyfish
Yeah.
things, and they're like, blah, blah, like, really?
blah, blah.
Like, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Can I see your junk?
There's a
Blah, blah.
movie that gets you thinking. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because that's, again, that same mountain, that flat mountain out, Devil's Tower,
Devil's
which
Tower.
has weird energy around it. And Richard Dreyfuss makes it out of the mashed potatoes, and he's compelled to go there. And that's all the same themes of what a lot of these abductions
God,
talk
that
about.
scared me as a kid so
Oh my
badly.
God, terrifying.
It was so scary.
Is that where you got our theme song from the last episode?
So when I wrote our theme song from season 1 of
Wrote
The
it. There's
Fraidy
no
Cat,
lyrics.
There's
She wrote it
was
on
an
her
expression
Casio.
of
sorry.
my
She composed
keyboard
it.
skills. I composed it with a drum solo. That brings us to the end of this conversation. What is a movie that you saw when you were a kid that scared you so much that had to do with aliens or outer space?
I think Fire in the Sky, which is the other story I was going to talk about. With D.B. Sweeney, he plays a logger, and they're out in the woods, and he gets abducted. They can't find him. His friends come back, and then he just shows up 3 days later, and he's like...
Is this a Travis story?
Yeah,
Did
Travis Wallace. And it scared me because the way they did the movie, it was like super believable. Probably not for Kathe, but it was super believable.
That story
it's terrifying.
It's terrifying. He was actually, not to correct you, but they were on their way back from a work day.
Then they had worked all day.
They worked all day. They saw a ship in the sky. They saw something in the sky.
And
they
then he
pulled
got
over, and he got out to get a better look, and it beamed him into the ship, is what the witnesses said. And then he was missing for 5 days.
And they thought he murdered him.
Yeah,
they thought that these guys murdered him, and then he showed up like 2 towns over, and he made a phone call, and they were like...
He called his brother-in-law.
Was this a movie or
Yeah.
is this
No, it's a true
But
story.
it's based
Oh,
on
it's
a true story and a book.
And a book. Oh.
Well, he wrote a book.
I know.
And then they made it into a movie.
That is a scary movie.
That's a
Alien
terrifying.
scared me a lot,
Yeah.
even though it's not like...
The Abyss is kind of scary, too.
The Abyss is really scary.
But that wasn't when I was a kid. I think Close Encounters was probably...
That's-
Poltergeist. But that's
that's
Ghost.
That's Ghost. That's not.
See, that's what I was going to say, Poltergeist, because I didn't watch it. Here's the other thing. I'm not interested in any of the alien stuff.
Yeah.
So I didn't watch a lot of that. Plus, I don't like scary movies.
Yeah.
I went to see Friday the 13th, and I was asked to leave because I kept running out of the theater. So, like, I just don't like I don't like scary movies. So I would say Poltergeist was probably like the only thing that was a little bit supernatural, a little bit that I watched.
She says, they're here.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, so we'll have to have you back on when we talk about like demons and all of that good stuff, because that's my kryptonite as well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I find all of that fascinating because there's
Carolyn loves
way
it.
more documentation on that than alien abduction.
Oh, I don't believe in demons. I just believe in shitty people. Like, having a bad day. I actually don't believe in
Well,
demons.
we'll have a whole episode dedicated to that. Thank you for tuning in for this episode of the Fraidy Cat podcast. Once again, Kathe, where can people find more information on you? Kathe Farris.
Well, KatheFarris.com.
Perfect.
There you go, right there.
And your name is spelled with just an E at the end, not a Y.
Right.
People should know that.
Right. Not
Yeah.
for extraterrestrial, but just
No.
E. Kathe.
I'm Kelly McFarland. Thanks for joining us.
Carolyn Plummer.